Hello and welcome to Markets Weekly. My name is Zohaib Fazal, and over the next few minutes, we are going to talk about how the markets behaved in the last week and what are the expectations of the market in the coming week. The markets in the last week, in fact, the last 4 weeks were on the bearish terrain. If you look at the last 4 week candles, all the candles were bearish candles. In fact, in the last week, the markets tried to take support at about 50-day moving average, and it touched that level about 3 days, and then it bounced back from that level, and it always closed above the level of 50-day moving average, which was about 19,300. Absolutely, I mean during intraday, the markets did breach the 50-day moving average, and then from there try to recover and recovered quite smartly from there, which implies that the markets are taking a lot of support at 50-day moving average. In fact, one of the reasons why the markets are behaving in such bearish tone is the fact that the FIIs have sold about 11,000 to 12,000 crores worth of shares, with DII trying to support the markets by buying about 9,200 crores worth of shares. In fact, the macroeconomic scenario, the global factors are not looking too good for the markets. If we look at India specific, I mean the inflation was at about 7.7 plus percent, which is on the higher side, which is breaching the RBI expected or comfort range of 4 plus or minus 2%, which is basically 6% on the higher side. So if it breaches that 6%, then RBI is not comfortable with those inflation numbers. And in fact, the RBI did take some measures, and it surprised the markets by increasing the CRR ratio, which the markets took quite negative. And on the day of the RBI policy, there was quite a bit of selling in the markets. Even the global factors are now turning bearish. In fact, uh, Nasdaq is also now in the bearish territory. It's also losing its stellar performance that it showed over the last few weeks. In fact, I think Nasdaq 100 touched about 10,000 points on the downside, and it moved beyond 14,000 points, which is quite a spectacular rally. And now it's hovering around the 13,500 kind of a range. Now, considering all this, what is it that we can expect from the markets next week? In fact, next week is going to be extremely crucial for the market to decide the next course of action. 19,250 should be a very strong support on the downside. If that support breaks, then the next support that the markets will look at is at about 19,000 levels. But we are expecting that in this August series, in this August month, we should be able to see 19,000 worth of levels. But in the next week, 19,250 on the downside should act as extremely important support zone, with 19,500 that will be acting as an extremely important resistance for the markets. And in case the markets breach the 19,250 levels on Monday itself, then the markets will head straight towards 19,000 levels, where it should find some support, considering that it's both psychologically important, because a lot of people who missed out on this rally would try to create long positions at about 19,000, and all the people who have shorted the markets will try to cover their shorts at that level. So 19,000 is going to be a very important psychological as well as technically very important levels for the markets, and any breach of that level is going to create or open doors for a massive bearish undertone in the markets. But from a technical perspective, we are not expecting 19,000 to be broken on the at the lower level, at least for the August month. And this week, 19,250 on the lower side is going to be extremely important zone, with 19,500 to act as very important resistance. So people who would like to make some money should short the markets. If they're planning to sell calls and puts, then they should sell 19,500 call with 19,200 put. And this is going to help them to make some money, because the markets are in the oversold category right now, and there is a bounce back that can be expected from the markets. In fact, 19,250 levels that I'm talking about is going to act as a very strong support zone and should keep the market afloat. With those levels not breaking, at least at least for this week. Uh, from global factors perspective, I mean, China is going through massive crisis. We all do know about, one of the realtors company of China has declared bankruptcy. I think it's Evergrande Realtors, and that's also keeping the markets on the tenterhooks. In fact, the U.S. market is inflation data is looking much better, but considering that the Fed did give a hawkish comment in its last meeting, and did point that there can be two more rate hikes by end of the year. That's also something that the markets have already factored in. So if those two rate hikes come by end of this year, I mean, it should not be a surprise for the markets. But from the local factors perspective, rupee has breached 83. Dollar to rupee now is 83 plus rupees. In fact, it went very close to 83 rupees 50. Dollar went very close to 83 rupees 50 paisa, which talks about extreme weakness in the markets, extreme weakness in the currency markets for India, as well as the commodity prices. Especially the crude has gone above the $80 mark, which is also going to hurt India's prospect in the international trade. So this is like a double whammy where Indian currency is losing value against dollar, as well as the crude is rising up. So these all factors are going to play into the market. But considering that we have already fallen so much from about 19,900 levels to about 19,300, 350 odd levels, we should be expecting some support at about 19,250 levels, and with very strong resistance at about 19,500 levels. The option data also is very clear on that. 19,000 puts have the highest open interest for the weekly options, with 19,500 calls having a very strong open interest. In fact, there are more calls being written right now when compared to puts, and the markets will take these call writers on a ride by first trying to move up by about 200 points, to closer to about 19,450 odd levels, 19,450 to 19,500 levels. But any breach of 19,500 levels should again be construed as the oppositions in the call should basically be uh, terminated. That's all from now. That's all for now. Happy trading next week.